All right, welcome back to the Black Male Archives. I am your host, Rodney Freeman, and we have with us Ken Granderson, a co-founder of Black Facts. Sir, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This is exciting for me to interview you, somebody who was there during the early days of the internet, and just like we just talked pre-internet. So this is really good to be able to interview you. I know this is one half of Black Facts, but this is good just to be able to kind of hear your story, hear the early days about Black men in tech, which we don't really hear about that much. If you look at the news, if you look at media outlets, you would not think that Black men were even there. So I am honored to be able to interview you today, sir. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell the listeners about yourself and your background, and we'll get started.
How far back do you want me to go in my background?
Okay, let's go to the early days. What got you into tech?
Sure. What got me into tech was that I grew up in Brooklyn in the neighborhood formerly known as Do or Die Bed-Stuy, and now it's the new and improved Bed-Stuy. But I was able to, because of the school I was fortunate enough to get into, to get access to computers, which back then were things that you either had to go to a local college and there was punch cards and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Caught the bug back then by pirating, really, copying the Star Trek program and getting it to work on the high school computers when they got computers. Fast forward a long time because.
And what year was that?
Oh, this is the late 1970s now.
Oh, okay.
The late 70s.
Yeah.
I left Brooklyn in 1980 to go to college. Went to MIT. Was going to do computer science, but when I saw, these, guys with big beards and backpacks with their life on it, I was like, nah, I don't want to be like them because I'm away from home and there's girls here.
Yeah.
So I had already started DJing, became like the number one DJ in the Black college Northeast area, and fast forward to the end after graduating because I did electrical engineering instead of computer science. End of the year, I started working in tech, like just really working with things like spreadsheets, etc. Started doing software testing, got the bug again to do programming, and decided I wanted to start programming. So I talked to the folks I was working for, Phoenix Technologies. They were the folks who cloned these IBM chips that started the PC compatible industry.
Yeah.
And I said to them, hey, I'm thinking about doing programming. If I take courses, will you guys do tuition reimbursal? They were like, nah, we're really more of a hardware company and you're doing software testing. So no. So I said, okay, well, if I teach myself, can we amend our employment agreement so you don't have any intellectual property rights on anything I make? And they said, well, we're a hardware company, so sure.
Yeah.
We did. Bought a couple of books, taught myself how to program, and over the course of maybe about 3 years, got to a point where I had put some programs out there that made money. Back then, you could actually put programs out and get people to register them. And when I made as much from my side hustle as my day gig, I dropped the day gig. And because I was doing it under the name Inner City Software, which in pre-gentrification, this is 1992.
Yeah.
Pre-gentrification times, that was code for Black Software Company. And I had a couple of customers like in South Africa and stuff like that. I was doing some business with folks in like remote consulting with some folks in Arizona, which didn't do Martin Luther King Day. And they were Mormons. Hello, just let Black folks, become bishops in their church, a few years before.
Yeah.
Those. Oh, and in addition to, in the book that my most popular program got into, in my thank yous, I did a prerequisite thank you for, to Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
But I didn't stop there. I threw in, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, otherwise known as Malcolm X, and even went to, Minister Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad. This is a few years before the Million Man March, where the Nation of Islam in Black communities was doing some serious work with, with his brothers coming out of the system and getting the gangs to stop shooting each other, etc.
Yeah.
And that was in books that were in CompUSA throughout the country. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this tech thing doesn't have the racial barriers that other industries had.
Right.
I was in a basement apartment, second phone line and a computer, and I was able to quit, my mainstream job.
Okay.
So I was like, let me focus on doing technology that focuses on us.
Yeah.
And that's the path that I chose, way back then. And I've stayed on that path for the most part, trying to get Black history and digital Black history into the schools in 1995. Excuse me. I paused so you can edit that out.
Okay, we'll do. How did you guys come up with the Black Facts then? How did you and your co-founder come together? And
well, back when I was doing community oriented stuff, and to make a very long story shorter, I was able to become probably the first, what's called Microsoft calls a most valued professional. That is an MVP tag from 1997. That gave me access to all of Microsoft's servers and tools, including their database server. So I said, hey, let me come up with a project to teach myself how to do web database-driven websites.
Yeah.
There was some lists of Black history events that were, circulating on CompuServe and America Online. Started with that, built Black Facts in 97 with the database where you could search for things. And it is the first searchable Black history site. Started in 97. Other similar sites have come and gone, but we're still standing, and we are now at 750,000 historical and news articles. And 2 years ago, we started doing videos for Kwanzaa 2020, and we have over 800 original Black history short videos, including one for every day of the year that we call the Black Facts Minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So back then, Dale, there was a small cadre of Black technologists where, imagine this, 1996 in a town called Boston, predominantly white town, I was able to get together about between a half dozen and a dozen Black tech entrepreneurs. Networking, programming, some graphic design, and we built websites to put the Black communities online. Dale had and still has a consulting firm, Intelitech Consulting, where he had like a dozen employees or whatever, and he had some of his team working on stuff. Dale was always more kind of corporate, and I was very grassroots. We've stuck together, so he helped get the project going, and would provide like design things, like when 97 we built the Congressional Black Caucus website. And so I was like his designers, and then I did like the web programming kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I warn you, I talk a bunch of crap, but all my crap I got receipts for on my personal website, KenGranderson.com, or you can go on the Internet Archive, web.archive.org. Anything that I talk about, you can find original snapshots of those. Because I have been there. Yes, Scandolf, I was there 3,000 years ago.
Yeah. This is awesome, because this is like history to make it. This should be like a documentary. Have you guys ever thought about doing something like that?
Yes, we have. Not so much on things that I did. I'm working on, for a few years, I've been procrastinating on writing a book that I'm going to call Techie Chagwalia, Self-Determination Through Technology. How an inner city, boy from the hood, created his own 30-year tech career that put his Black communities and a Caribbean government online.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I put the government of St. Lucia online. The Black neighborhoods of Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, the data-driven version of those, and the Roxbury.com was in 2002. Got like an 8-minute video walkthrough. You can see the screens. We had news, events, business directory listings, and discussions. This is before sites like Eventbrite and Yelp, even were in existence.
Yeah.
So we know that we've been there since the beginning. Heck, a lot of people don't even know that the first .com names were from the company Network Solutions. It was a black company when it started.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. Yes, we have been there since the beginning, but because we have not, I believe, because we haven't, in many cases, captured our stories,
Mm-hmm.
or more importantly, and I would say, we have not shared our stories, because a lot of the things that I'm talking about are public knowledge. If you search, Network Solutions, you'll see Emmett McHenry. He's alive and well, living in Maryland. In the 1990s, one of the most popular animation programs, Macromedia Director, had a programming language called Lingo. Brother named John Thompson wrote that. I talked with him. He's here in Brooklyn with me. So I'm saying we have been there.
Yeah.
But for reasons that I can't figure out, we don't celebrate those of us, who do different tech things.
So, okay, so that's why I want to ask you, why do you think it is then? So the mainstream narrative then is that Black folks were nowhere to be found in tech before tech blew up. Is it because you guys haven't shared your stories until now, or is it just because they don't cover that? What's your perception?
I mean, I only have my own anecdotal, beliefs, my lived experiences, and it's and my personal biases, and etc. First of all, I have never expected. Well, I'll put it like this. Let me ask this. I thought experiment. So you found out that mainstream media, run by folks who used to, maybe some still would today, buy and sell you like livestock. They didn't tell your stories to empower you. Are you so you're surprised?
Right.
Did you really expect that to? I've never expected that to happen. I've always expected that it was up to us to tell our stories, to toot our own horns, to promote our own, excellence and our own successes. Which is not to say that we haven't run into allies who have been very, very serious and invested, resources, to help us move forward. But I've never expected that. So in general, I think that we just, frankly, I think it's just it's a priorities thing. I used to argue, and in a couple of videos that I have from back in the day, when computers first started getting into the homes, and there was this, it's too expensive. And I said on camera, maybe I should have said this one on camera, that there's a lot of people who, you look in their closets, or their rims cost more than a computer. Hello, and so it's, to me, it's priorities where, and that's what drove things like Black Facts. I'm not a historian. I'm not a researcher. I'm a tech guy who always looked at his history about telling our stories as, dare I say, like a gateway drug to get folks interested in this tech thing, which for me was a life-transforming opportunity that had no old boy network. No white person has ever, maybe a couple have tried, whatever, but knocked them out the way, to stop me from doing anything.
Right.
Because I've always created my own systems, and I host my own stuff and things that I have control over. Even today, I joke that I really could care less what Mark Zuckerberg or the Mad King Musk does. Doesn't impact me. And and we're pushing to get Black history, digital Black history, into schools throughout the country. And guess what? Ron DeSantis, you know what you can do? That's right, because they can't stop us, because we are totally empowered in the way we do technology. One of my challenges is wondering, why don't other people realize that too? Because the technology used to be an old saying on the internet, nobody knows that you're a dog, or if you're a dog, whatever. The tech doesn't care who you are. It works the same no matter who's programming it or running it. But for reasons that I don't like to be conspiratorial, but I sometimes think that the man from the old movie Undercover Brother put something in our food where whenever we think about doing something for ourselves for tech, we get a pain or something. And we because think about almost any industry. If you look around wherever you are, anything that's not natural, there's someone who has a business buying, selling, building those, and there's a good chance you know about Black people in that business, unless it's tech.
Right.
Why is that? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. The hustle is strong in us. We get kept out of things, certain, whether it's industries or certain kind of sports, whatever. As soon as we get it, next thing you know, boom, we're running it. But why is it not with tech? I've never figured that out. I've stopped trying. I'm just trying to do what I do and hopefully find a few people who get on the same vibe, because real talk, when we did Roxbury.com in 2002, there was a development team of 4 of us. Okay, myself, my junior developer, Jason, my mid-level developer, Martin, now Raja, who went on to start the first point-of-sale cannabis system in Oregon, and my senior developer, Diana. That's the sister, was my senior developer, late 90s, early 00s, and we built the system that put whole neighborhoods online. Which is to say, it doesn't take a room full of people. It doesn't take millions of dollars to make significant change. I'm saying that because I've done it.
Yeah.
I've seen what it takes.
And so I got to ask you a question. So have you been approached by investors? And
not at all.
Okay. And that's what I was going to ask you, because you guys are independent, you own your own thing. That would have changed the whole mission of this, right?
Right. So in an alternate universe, and if I had known you were going to ask that question, I would have gone and grabbed my blackpeople.com t-shirt. There's a link I can share with you. It's like September 15th, 1999, 35-page business plan for a professional/social network under blackpeople.com. That, the idea was to create, that kind of system, tried to shop it, through some Black VCs, and, got zero interest. It's easy for me to think that back then they had no idea what was going on. Today, I am Mr. Skeptic about many things, including the whole VC is going to save us, meme. I believe that ultimately that venture capital at its core is rich people trying to get richer by buying lottery tickets in the form of companies that go IPO or get bought by Facebook. Other than that, they're really not interested. They're looking for these massively scalable kind of ventures, which is interesting. I have yet to see any of them. The thing that frustrates me is that I'm starting to see these companies talking about, they got a few million here, they got a few million there, and then you never see or hear from them again. We got 30 years of results that is publicly, visible, and then the whole, even if we did get more companies getting that kind of money, it seems to me, or my belief is, once you get in bed with investors, your mission, your vision now becomes, ROI.
Right.
And what I would expect to see happen is that the founders and maybe some of the early employees are going to do very well, and most likely leave the neighborhood in their rearview mirror, never to be seen or heard from again. Maybe they might be. Hopefully, they come say something at a high school or whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole VCs are going to, with whether it's Black folks or women, are going to save us. To me, is trickle down theory.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. It doesn't. The real world doesn't work that way. Versus if we had investors who would look at businesses that had, a decent track record, or people who have shown that, they're not just looking for a mad dash for cash and, I'm going to make $100 million in something I ain't never done before, and looked at folks who have demonstrated, that they can make things happen. Then I think we would see stories about this company, and then a year later, a follow-up was like, yes, hi, remember me? This is what I did.
Yeah.
I don't see those remember me's. I
Yeah.
want to see some of those remember me's before I'm going to really believe that that ecosystem is doing what it is being sold to do.
Man. I mean that's definitely spot on. How do you okay, so how did you have this longevity in this in this tech game? I mean, what kept you motivated? What kept you just, while other people would come and go around you, how did you continue just to stay on this path?
Okay, yeah. Well, in another document that I have that I call my personal manifesto called Duty and Opportunity, those are the things that drive me.
Yeah.
I realized that I was fortunate enough in many ways, one of them being to be born at a time when I was able to stumble into certain opportunities. But I realized that those opportunities only existed because people who came before me, who I only read about in books, put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
And I think while I was always aware, a lot of people, it took some of the political shifts in the US of recent times for them to realize that if we don't keep pushing, those doors can be closed before we know it.
Right.
And so, quite frankly, I've been disappointed at many of my peers who have focused on, being good citizens and good parents and all, and that's all great,
Mhm.
but have not also recognize that the investment that our ancestors or predecessors made to make our lives easier, that there was a cost to that. And
Mhm.
the cost of that is that we have to put some of our skin in the game to keep
Mhm.
it moving.
Mhm.
And a lot of folks, 80s was when I was in college, they call it the me generation. Maybe that's a lot of it, where folks thought, oh, everything, this stuff is over, et cetera, et cetera. um, you know, that's what these are just my personal, beliefs. So what's kept me going is that I haven't seen other people to take up the slack. I love to
Yeah.
relax a little bit. I love to not work the kind of, schedule and put so many resources in. And, for the majority of Black Facts history, it's been funded by the Bank of Dale.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you we give away the content to the public. We only in the past year came up with, after a couple of false starts with the idea of doing business to consumer B2C kind of things like
Mhm.
premium membership, came up with a B2B approach of selling premium access and interfaces to our video collection to schools, and something we
Yeah.
call Black Facts for Schools. And so
Yeah.
when we've been able to get in front of the schools that are interested in getting Black history, we have all this content and they can search and
Yeah.
find this stuff or whatever. They love it, but because there's only a couple of us, we're very limited in how quickly we can penetrate,
Yeah.
that world.
Yeah, yeah. This is really good stuff. What do you have? What do you see? Okay, so I'm glad that I'm talking to a pioneer in the internet, because you are there for what do they call that? Web
Web
two.
1.0 and Web 2.0, so you're gonna have to
Yeah.
have Web
And
3.0.
so what's your thoughts and your visions and your things for Web 3? Where do you think that's going, and and how are you going to apply that to Black Facts?
Mhm. So recently, like in the past few months, I stumbled on something that I imagine a lot of people in the business analyst world have been knowing about for years, called the Gartner hype cycle.
Mhm.
It's a curve that tries to map out sort of the life cycle of innovations or different kind of things. They talk about this unrealistic, exuberant, overhype, and then the trough of disillusionment or whatever. And then the moral of the story is, sooner or later, things fall into they find their place.
Yeah.
That's what I expect to happen with Web3. I've been around enough and have seen enough movies play out of true believers and this and that and the other, where shorts, everything gonna change the world. And you got to read about the stuff in Wikipedia to even know that it ever happened.
Mm.
So I don't buy any kind of, oh, this is going to be the big thing. Um, you know, there are certain aspects of Web3 that like to me, it's like, yeah, that just doesn't pass the smell test at all.
Yeah.
Some things appear to me to be solutions in search of a problem. Like, you
Mhm.
really think that majority of the population is going to start acting this way or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm being purposely vague because I don't like to appear to be pouring cold water on any particular sort of thing. This is one of these things I'm struggling with right now that
Yeah.
I see what strikes me as history repeating itself about people having this major amounts of hype and investing a lot of their time, energy and real talk, money that could maybe I could use in things that I don't think have a snowball's chance of ever surviving.
Yeah.
And but in the Gartner thing, they estimate how long it will be for certain technologies or things to find that plateau, space. And for most of the Web3 things, they're talking like 5 to 10 years. That
Yeah.
feels about right to me.
Yeah.
What I've done back in the early, 93, yeah, even before I got all of the Microsoft stuff, I found ways to get access to some of their stuff. And I used to play with the beta programs and stuff like that. When I got to the point where I was actually trying to run a business, as a sage philosopher said, ain't nobody got no time for that.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to people speculate about all these kind of things, I'm like, yeah, okay, sounds good. Good luck with that. You know, because maybe if you've got investors who don't care whether your thing go works or doesn't, you can afford. I gotta eat, so I usually wait
Yeah.
these things to
Yeah.
get where they are,
Yeah.
and then it's like, so now this thing, stood the test of time, unlike the other 20 things that were hyped just as much, but
Yeah.
are dead and gone, or
Yeah.
maybe the thing that you thought was going to be the big thing is in version 4 of
Right.
that thing that had
Right.
nothing to do with the other stuff.
Right.
So I play a wait and see
Yeah.
in general, because frankly, I doubt that any of us, well, if past is prologue, you cannot find on YouTube or articles about anyone, industry leaders to amateurs, who have a good track record of predicting things that were going to happen in technology more than a onesie or twosies, right? So I have
Right.
no reason to think that any of my ideas, no matter
Mhm.
how bright I might think I am, are
Mhm.
going to actually be like that. What I think is going to happen is that 5 years from now, we'll be using commonplace technologies that we haven't been invented yet, that
Yeah.
no one's thinking about right now.
Yeah. 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 That is very interesting, and I'm looking at some of these new technologies out here, and I know they're attractive and they're appealing, and I feel like some I would like to try out, but like you said, it's really kind of, we don't know what's going to happen yet. So
Yeah.
what do you do then for Black Facts? If are you staying the course, or are you going to focus more on just internal building of content, or what? So what's the game plan for Black Facts?
Our game plan is real simple. Focus on getting in 10% of the public schools in
Okay.
the United States of America. If we do that, we can hire, several rooms full of people,
Yeah.
and start building out a lot of other projects we have. Like
Yeah.
literally, between me and Dale, we come up with new ideas. I call them harebrained schemes. Every few days, we throw together a little mock-up in PowerPoint. Our PowerPoint has over 200 slides in it now. Once we are out of the hand to mouth sort of thing, and that could happen. We expect that to happen this upcoming year. We
Okay.
started selling to schools like in the summer,
Okay.
and one of the things that we didn't anticipate, because one of the downsides of being sort of self-taught and being these like skunk works garage kind of folks, is that we don't necessarily we're not used to doing enough research in certain areas and finding out certain
Mhm.
things. So we stumbled on the idea of videos because
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, Dale wanted to do videos to explain Kwanzaa. And,
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, we got all these videos. And in the schools, like getting into each school system, whether it's at the state level, because we're in 7 states now, sometimes at the municipality level, there's
Mm-hmm.
different vendor lists you need to get on. There's different kind of things. So there's
Mm-hmm.
red tape. And that can sometimes come down to, in one state, it took us 3 months to get approved because there was one person who wasn't checking the email that had to like forward an email on,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we're learning just the business of doing business. One of several things we have always wanted to do is connect with folks who understand the business side of whether it's selling to schools, selling to corporations.
Yeah.
Back in 2020, we thought during the whole George Floyd, murder response and all these companies that Black Lives Matter on their websites, we thought, well, maybe this time, unlike in the 90s and O's when many of our friends were vice president of community affairs, sounded good, but they didn't
Yeah.
have signing authority to do
Right.
projects. Well, maybe the DEI thing is going to be different this year. Nah, it was Lucy and the football. It's like, same story, different
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
where, so we thought that was going to work. There are
Yeah.
people that I know who have been successful in the DEI space. We would love to connect with some of those folks because we believe that the same kind of content that we want to get into schools,
Mm-hmm.
that getting it into corporations, we even have pages with show like how you can embed our videos, whatever. We believe that what we have could be a very non-confrontational way to inform people about diverse cultures. And I say diverse because we started at home with Black communities, but we just did a Native American icon series, and we're expanding.
Yeah.
So we would love to run into. When I say run into, that's scratch that. We would love to develop symbiotic working relationships
Yeah.
with experts in things other than tech, because
Yeah.
we know tech. We
Yeah.
eat, sleep, and breathe tech. Other things, not so much.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to say we're experts in this. We know what we're good at. We know what we're not good at.
Yeah.
So yeah. So whether it's folks in sales, folks in who understand ed tech, folks who not really can leverage the corporate thing,
Yeah.
working in the corporate diversity space, we'd love to connect with folks like that.
Yeah.
And we even have agreements, documents on things that we believe folks would find mutually beneficial. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff. Okay. Awesome. So what other so how can listeners and followers of this podcast kind of get in touch with you and kind of keep up with you? And do you have any special projects that you got coming out currently?
Sure. Okay. So on the Black Fact site, there's a little place where you can sign up for the newsletter. If folks wanted to try and reach me directly, my personal website, kengranderson.com, has my contact info on it. As far as a new project, I mean, our main focus is, getting digital Black history into schools. But as part of that, literally earlier today, I posted something on social media. As part of our Black Facts for Schools initiative, we're looking to develop a series of live programs called Role Models Matter. And the idea is to find role models from various walks of life and backgrounds, although our ideal folks will be folks who came from like more challenging, like, low income, urban or rural areas, who've been able to beat the odds and are doing things. Doesn't mean that you're the CEO, whatever, but and would be willing to invest 5 minutes of their time in a live broadcast that would be broadcast to students who have the Black Facts for Schools, who are subscribers to Black Facts for Schools, where in that 5 minutes they would either answer some questions or they might have their own presentation that would pretty much be similar to what we're doing here, but more structured around, hey, how did you start off? Where are you? What are you doing today? And what are some of the things you felt made you successful? Because we believe that the single most powerful thing that any of us can do, is be a role model for other folks. That classes and different things is really important, but there's nothing like seeing someone that you can identify with who has done some things that you either aspire to do or maybe you never thought about doing. And now it's like, oh wow, maybe I can do that. I'm old enough, you too, to thought maybe most of your life, wondered, will there ever be a Black person as president of the United States? I used to wonder, was I going to live to see that? And regardless of what, accolades or critiques someone may have politically about Barack Obama, he erased from the collective psyche of the human race, he erased that question for billions of Black and brown kids from that point for all future times. There will never be a kid who will wonder, could I be that? That's the power of role models. That is the power that I believe that many of us who we just live our lives and we don't think we're special, but our day-to-day lives are like nirvana to a lot of kids.
Right.
And all we need to do is let them see us to plant that seed. So I'm reaching out to a lot of folks from my generation, inviting other folks. If you just go to rolemodelsmatter.com, there's like a form that lets you nominate somebody. You can nominate yourself, because this is really about showcasing, breaking that narrative, these stereotypes and memes, because we've all heard the saying, if it bleeds, it leads. The nature of news is to promote the shocking, the salacious. Black man goes to work, comes home, kisses his wife and kids. That's not a news story.
Right. Exactly.
That's not a news story. So if that's the 97% even, but someone acts the fool, we know what's going to get the coverage, right? So I believe, again, it's up to us. Thank you so much for what you're doing, Rodney. I think it's up to us to recognize that we have the ability to quote Gandhi, be the change, we want to see in the world, or this quote that I stumbled on by Marion Wright Edelman. It's like my favorite quote now is be a good ancestor, stand for something bigger than yourself, add value to the earth during your sojourn. We all have the ability to do that, regardless of what's in our bank account, regardless of the connections we have. If we're just good, decent people, we have the ability, to inspire others just by showing up. So whether it's through Role Models Matter, whether it's through getting involved in your community, faith group, whatever, we all have that ability. I just really hope that more of us recognize the power that we have to write our narratives and are willing to put in a little bit of time. Don't build your life around it unless you're really ready for that. Most of y'all ain't ready for that, and that's okay. But
Right.
we can do a little bit. I'm sorry. Like I told you, I run long. You got to stop me. Because
you see, I'm just sitting here. I'm just listening. I'm just trying to soak all this in. This is great. This is good stuff. This is why we do this, like you said, because we want people to hear your story and get inspired by what you've done and the stuff that you guys are working on. I think this is very powerful for people, especially young boys, to see this. African American people, anybody, just to see people who are able to build something, and like I say, I'm just appreciative that we get the chance to do this. Let's keep in contact.
Absolutely.
And I am so I definitely, if you guys need anything, let us know. But the Black Male Archives, where we capture, curate, and promote positive stories about Black men, which you are one of. Thank you, sir, for being on this show. We definitely want to circle back with you once you get the role models out too, because I think, again, like you said, that's very powerful to see, someone like you in that. And, I actually, before we go, I do want to ask who inspired you to get into this field? How did that come about?
Well, and I kind of suggested it, but the interesting thing about that is that it was the lack of people.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me.
Yeah.
Was that, well, I will say this. Let me give, major thumbs up, to my older brother, who, when I was 25, he introduced me to the writings of Napoleon Hill. And, I was at MIT and all that, but, because I was raised, very kind of modest, blue collar, dad worked for the post office, I figured, you know what? I graduate, I'll be able to get a job, I'll make more than dad. That was my goal. That was it.
Yeah.
Those writings and other books like that exposed me to the idea of trying to think of doing something bigger than myself and all. And that's what kind of got me on on a path to think about making a bigger impact. And I discovered along the way that it is not as hard as anyone thinks, maybe because so few people are doing something or much of anything.
Man, this is an inspiring story. Thank you, sir, for sitting down and talking to us about this. And definitely, this is just our first interaction of many. So,
Thank you.
Again, thank you for being on the podcast. And, sir, have a happy holiday.
Okay, you too. You too.
All right.
All right.